Today's talk is going to be around preparing your own herbal teas. My favourite plant in the world is calendula. So there's calendula. We'll start off with the first one. So that's, it's otherwise known as marigold. It's grown very easily here, and it's got, they say you can get them in different colours, but they say that traditionally the orange petals are better for herbal teas, better for your body than, with the active compounds than the yellow ones. So calendula is amazing because you can use the petals or you can use the whole flower. The whole flower, people can soak those in vinegar to make calendula vinegar, soak them in oil, and also make teas out of the whole flower. That's right. They're full of essential oils, so they're really. That means it's an anti-inflammatory properties. So that means it's really good for applying topically for the skin, and as well as for the herbal teas to be drunken internally as well. So the actions, they've got anti-inflammatory properties, antimicrobial properties, and they're good for immunity teas and increase energy levels and improve the mood. So and they've been used for thousands of years. It's a real I think it was historically from Europe, Northern Europe, and they've been used for thousands of years. And
Ellen doing, sorry, we're still sending people over. They're all lingering.
Oh, are they? Yes, no problems. Shall I start anyway?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'll just start.
These lovely people have already.
Yes,
so
I'll just start slowly. Yes, lovely. Yeah, yes. I've still got plenty of things for them, and herbal teas are generally very safe to drink, but like with everything, just take in moderation. Some people have got allergies to flowers from the daisy family, and so, but then you perhaps would, and these are from the daisy family, the Asteraceae family. So that perhaps you wouldn't, if you've got a known allergy to that, then perhaps you wouldn't overdose. Wouldn't have too many of those, I'm very interested in herbal teas, but I'm not a medicinal herbal practitioner. I'm halfway through my herbal certificate through the Herbal Federation Society of New Zealand, and that's just for general herb use and herb knowledge. And like most of these things, are all very safe, but just if you're going to use them medicinally, then you've got to seek a little bit, seek professional advice. For instance, some may cause a little bit, exacerbate blood thinning properties, or if you have, or are not good for people. For instance, maybe for pregnant ladies, you wouldn't have too many of them. But for herbal teas, it's such a small, a few petals here and a few leaves there, and one drink a day. Then that's usually totally safe. So we're going to put calendula in this jar here. We're going to put that because we can make our. I think it smells lovely, and we can make our some teas from that. That's just a desiccant label in there, desiccant packet.
They're not fresh, or they're dried?
Yes, they're dried. So I'll tell you about that as well. So so of course you can make herbal teas with fresh or dried ingredients, and but I dry them. I usually use them fresh because I've got them fresh growing in my garden. But there's always some that don't grow in your garden, grow that'll die down in winter if they're deciduous, or they don't grow in your particular garden because it's temperate climate or it's a tropical one. So, for instance, I've got these dried rose petals, and because roses don't last all year, nettles do last all year, but it's good to use the fresh green ones. These are stinging nettles. Good to use the fresh green ones. Lavenders, pineapple sage lasts all year. Kawa, and which is this one, mint. The mint tends to die down also quite a bit in winter. So then it's nice to have if you want to have them in, unless you're growing mint inside. But some herbs are really only good fresh, like lemon balm and basil. You wouldn't like to dry that, because the taste completely changes or the taste completely disappears. And so I've also got, what have I got? I've also got dried orange peel here. This is the most delicious smell. It's not strictly herb, but it's great to have, to add flavors because to your herbal teas, because some of them, for instance, nettle, don't have much flavor, just a grassy flavor. So if you like to add a little bit of flavor to your tea, then you would add something like lemon slices or orange peel. If we flick to the back page, we can see our herbal blending triangle, and that's what we use at home to help us decide how to blend herbal teas. So you tend to have three types. You get the action one, which is like, for instance, say if you want a relaxing tea, or you get or if you want a tonic tea, or if you want a floral tea, or an immunity tea. And some of those things don't have much of a strong taste, but they're the real action teas. Nettles, stinging nettles, and tulsi, and peppermint. They've got all the compounds and things in them for their for their sleep inducing properties. And then so you make most of your tea out of that, so about 70%. And then for supporting her, then you would add two. I wouldn't add. You can add as many herbs as you like, but 3 is good. Otherwise, you get a sort of a muddle of flavors. Like a bit like a musical melody. You don't have too many. You just got a few strong. Come on, if you like, a few strong. Oh, herbal teas. Yeah. And those the supporting herbs are also supporting herbs that work on the same area of actions of your primary teas, the base herbs. For instance, the kawa leaves, lavender buds, and pineapple sage. And then the accent teas are the ones the accent herbs are the ones that they're the ones that really add quite nice flavor, like the orange peel, your citrus slices. There's 2 citrus slices there actually, and rose petals have got a lovely rose, rose flavor. And feel free to ask any questions if you've got as we go through. Would you like a handout? Welcome. There we go. We just started. So we'll go through a couple more. Let's go through the kawa leaves. So we've got these ones here, kawa leaves. So they're a really well-known leaf, especially in New Zealand, and it's used in rongoa Maori for centuries, and also they've got a lovely scent as well. Yes, can smell it already. Yes, yeah. And they're rich in compounds that give pain relief and properties. So they've been used for for all kinds of pain relief, like especially in toothaches and all kind of bodily ailments in the past. And it's ideally used as an uplifting tonic. Would you like to come in? Hello. This is the herbal tea. Yeah. Yes, yes. Yeah. So it's a herbal tea blending workshop. And and it's a nice tradition that traditionally the leaves with the holes in them are the ones that are most used. And the main reason and it's been scientifically proven that the main reason for that is because once insects start chewing the leaves, that signals to the leaves to start producing more of their essential compounds as a fight against the insects. So that's why those leaves are the ones that are chosen for herbal practitioners to make their teas and the medicines. Welcome, Amanda. Would you like to have a handout as well? Oh, you got. Oh, lovely. Good. Very good. Very welcome. Okay, and then peppermint leaves. So I'll put those in this jar here. And this will smell nice and pepperminty. I'd like to have a little diversion into how I dry those. The herbs. You can dry them just by hanging them in a paper bag in a cool, dry or warm, dry environment. If you it has to be a paper bag, and not a plastic bag, because or if they're in a plastic bag, they will just start to mold. They won't allow the moisture to escape, and the sunlight really destroys the scent and the actions of all the herbal compounds in the leaves. So that's why it's best to keep them out of the sunlight. But I myself have got a nice dehydrator. It's called a food lab dehydrator, and it's great because you can put them all on different and single layer on different layers with different drawers, and just leave it for 8 hours, up to 8 hours on low electricity. It should be below 45 degrees, and then you can just walk away and let them dry overnight. But you'll notice I've recently discovered that you can also dry them in the microwave. You can also dry them in the microwave, and that's really, really. That takes it takes 2 minutes. Welcome, come in. It takes about 2 minutes. What you do is you put them between on a plate between two layers of paper in a single layer, and in the microwave on high for 1 minute, 60 seconds. And sometimes you can hear it crackling and that, and it's a bit scary, but when you open it, but when you, after 1 minute, it's just amazing because it's so instantaneous. It keeps the exact same color, really bright green color, and the flavor a lot longer. So you might notice, for instance, in my tulsi jar, that there are some really bright green ones and some more duller green ones. And they've all been dried. Nevertheless, they've all been dried in the last week, really freshly dried, but some have been dried in the microwave, and some have been dried in the where they've retained their really, their bright green color and their flavor. And then after 60 seconds, you take it out and you rearrange the leaves, sometimes, so that they're not overlapping, and put them in, turn them over, rearrange and put them in for another 30 seconds. And then you'll see that, especially the thin leaves, like the mint leaves, they are amazingly crisp and fresh. And sometimes the slightly thicker leaves, like the kawa leaves, you might have to do it for 20 more seconds. But the leaves retain their shape and their color, and it's almost like instantaneous drying. And I really recommend drying them that way. But you couldn't, for instance, dry the orange peel like that. You'd have to dry that long and slow. So either in the oven, and these, in the oven, so you peel these thinly. You might have a smell of these, the smell of them coming your way, and without the zest, because the zest can sometimes make your teas a bit bitter, give a bitter taste. And here, the citrus flavors I've got here is the orange peel, and I think this is actually lime peels. This one, but they look yellow. Lime slices. They look yellow because in New Zealand, when the lime is ripe, it turns yellow rather than green. And here is another small. It's lime quartz. So they're very tiny citruses, very cute, and they're a blend between lemons and lime. So they also add a really lovely citrusy flavor to your herbal teas, especially those herbal teas, like I mentioned, that have just got a, for instance, nettles that tend to have a sort of a grassy, maybe it might not be a very flavoursome, but citrus can sort of liven it up. Oh, sorry, the pith. The pith, yes, the white pith. Yes, yeah, you best, yeah, just use the zest part, and yeah, I meant the pith, the white part, because that can impart a sort of a bitter flavour to it. And here I've got, what else have I got? I've got chamomile as well. Chamomile flowers. Got a few there. And they've been used since ancient times. Chamomile flowers. They contain flavonoids, which promotes anti-anxiety and promotes sleep, and is really calm inducing. So it's well known chamomile teas are very calming, aren't they? And also anti-inflammatory, wound healing properties as well. But so you can get several different types of chamomile. This one in particular is the German chamomile. I would use the German chamomile for herbal teas because it's got a much sweeter taste. Sometimes you'll see notes about Roman chamomile because Roman chamomile is perennial, so sometimes that's the preferred chamomile for growing in gardens. But that gives quite a bitter taste. I've found that from experience, quite a bitter taste, and it's more used in teas. It's more used for tinctures and also for external uses, and for in oils and for tinctures, which they're preserved in alcohol. But for a nice soothing chamomile tea, I use German chamomile, and that's an annual, but it should reseed. It should reseed every year. So I'll put a few of those in there. Okay, and then here we've got tulsi leaves. So that's really an ancient, well-known herb in Indian and Ayurvedic medicine, and it's otherwise known as holy basil. You can get the different flavors. So this is the tulsi that smells like cloves, like spices. Can you imagine cinnamon and cloves? It's a beautiful scent. So I'll put it in a plate, and you'll really notice those scents. And it's beautiful. You can have that fresh. That's an evergreen bush, an evergreen perennial bushy herb. So you can have that. But the teas are made out of the fresh spring growth, much better flavors. So it's quite nice to dry those when you've later on in the year when you're haven't got any. That's like the bush that you would harvest the tips of it. Yes. Well, green tea is actually, most teas are made from the camellia plant, Camellia sinensis, yes. But this would be, but this one would be, you could use it for a green tea. It's really green coloured tea, yes. Meaning in terms of harvesting it? Yes. I didn't realise it was a bush that is perennial. Yes. And it's great in your permaculture garden because it also attracts, it's got insignificant flowers, but it attracts a lot of bees and butterflies. And it's also a very good one to have in your garden because it's so aromatic. When you brush against it, it's mosquito repellent, and also just like, do you remember at Dee's garden, it provides such a confusion of aromas that it sort of confuses all the pest insects and keeps them more special. Yes. And when you create a tea out of that, it reduces stress and anxiety and uplifts the spirit. So it's a real sort of a tonic tea. And what have I got next? Rose petals. So I've got rose petals here. Here I've got rose petals are, these are the dark red ones. So most roses are scented, but you'll find that sometimes they're hybrid ones, or the tea roses or so, they're not so scented. They've been bred more for beauty and and color and complexity rather than for scent. So it's quite often the older rose types that are really scented and good for teas. This is a damask. This is a damask rose, and they're the petals. Rosa damasca. Yeah, they're the best for the best flavor. But you can also use rose hips. In the autumn, you can pick the hips, and you can make rose hip syrup and rose hip tea, and the Rosa rugosa. Some of the older roses are really good for that. Yes. Do you hydrate the same way? Oh no, yes, I did mention that a little bit before earlier on, I think, but I might have talked about it before you came. That's all right. So you can I've dehydrated these in a variety of ways. Some of them have been in my dehydrator, which is a Food Lab square dehydrator, electric one with several layers, and they're good because you can do several types of, a bulk of them in several, maybe 7 drawers. Put it on for 8 hours at 40 degrees, no more than 45 or 40, and then you can just walk away and do other things. But I found that recently I found a fantastic way of dehydrating them is in the microwave. So then you just but you can just do small amounts and you have to stand there and watch it, because you do it at 60 seconds at a time between 2 pieces of paper on a thin layer. So it's about 10, 20 leaves, depending on your plate. Put it on, and then it's a little alarming how it can crackle sometimes, especially the ones with a bit of a high, essential oil content. That's leaves only. I wouldn't do the citrus slices. And then you check it to rearrange the leaves if they're overlapping, and then do it for another 20 or 30 seconds, and they've kept their shape and their color and their scent beautifully. That's the best way to dehydrate them, especially for some things like mint and cocoa leaves, tulsi. Yeah, because I found that with pineapple sage is the next one. They can sometimes go brown in the dehydrator, and then it can be a bit disappointing, when you take them out and they've gone sort of brown. And you can do the flowers and the leaves in your of pineapple sage. I like to dry them because the flowers disappear over the winter, and then but the only thing is that sometimes the intense pineapple flavor does tend to get a little bit lost with dehydrating. Yeah. So, but it's best to use the young growing tips of your pineapple sage. But pineapple sage, a very interesting history, because they've been used as a Mexican traditional herb, and it was traditionally used as an antidepressant, for millennia as an antidepressant. It's got very calming, soothing properties. Back in the days before antidepressants and aspirins and things like that. So this is an ideal tea to use as a calming and relaxing tea. And the flowers are lovely if you wanted just to create a floral tea, just to make a floral tea with a slight pink tinge. So I'll put these ones in another bowl here, I think, which I have. Actually, I'll just put them in here. Put this one, yeah. This has got there we go. This is pineapple sage. There we go. So stinging nettles. They're very interesting as well. Let's have a little look at that. To stinging. Oh, I don't have a nettle page. Oh, I'll have to ad lib that one. So stinging nettle is when they're dried. It's best for the young leaves in spring and summer. And they're well known as a anti-immunity herb it's immunity, to make immunity teas, antiviral, antibacterial properties, and it's also a great plant to have in your perennial garden, because tradition has it that wherever you plant stinging nettle, it helps because of all the essential oils in there, it makes the surrounding herbs taste even stronger. Like if you've got thyme growing around it or sage, it really brings out the flavor in those, and it makes those taste stronger. And they're also great because the stinging nettle plant, that's the urtica, is the host plant for the red and yellow admiral butterflies, which is our New Zealand native butterflies, which are quite endangered and quite rare. So a good way to try and attract those back into your permaculture garden, back into your garden, is to grow some stinging nettle. It can escape a little bit. Spreads by seed. So if you want, you can grow it in a large tub, or I just tend to grow it I just grow it underneath my apple trees, and sort of it doesn't escape too far because I pick too much of it for my herbal teas. And of course, that's one of the, when I have people to come to tour the in my food forests, that's one of the dangers, is to be careful around a stinging nettle, so to brush your legs around it. But luckily, there's always a handy supply of dock growing nearby, which is the antidote to stinging nettle stings. Did you know that? Rubbing dock leaves on if you've been stung by it. Yep.
I got bitten last night by quite a few sandflies.
Oh yes.
I panicked because I'm very allergic to them, and I am dock. I wonder if that works.
Yes, good. Yeah. And and it's quite fortuitous, but you always find dock growing nearby. They say nearby nettles. So, so the antidote is always growing nearby for you. So those nettles. So what if?
But you don't have lemon balm here. What was it you said before about it drying?
Yes, lemon balm doesn't dry very well. And it's also because I could have dried it here to bring here, but it's very very popular and common, and it also grows year round. So you can it don't really need to dry it, because you'll always, once you've got it in your garden, you'll always have it in your garden. So that's very So it doesn't tend to die down, but it's such a delicate lemony flavour that it's just doesn't dry very well, and it doesn't impart its flavour much in as it is a dried herb. But that is a favourite in relaxing teas and in refreshing summer tea as well. Okay, now I've got an empty container. Oh, this looks like it got wet in the rain. So I'll just dry that one. We've also, so next is lavenders. We've also got lavenders here. So I've got a whole jar full of lavender buds, and these have been used since in Egyptian times, ancient Egyptian times. They were found on the pyramids, as the herb sachets in amongst the mummies, and they've got just so many compounds for reducing anxiety and for improving the mood, and and for calming, restful properties. You can use, there's such a variety of lavenders. There's about 400 different types, but the best varieties are the English lavender, and because some of them, like the Spanish lavender, a little bit bitter, and but most varieties you can use. But the best varieties is the English lavender and the French lavender, the lavender dentata. And so these I dried these. They also dried well in the dehydrator, but you can also hang them in bundles upside down in a paper bag in a warm, dry spot. And then what you can tend to do is you crumble up the heads so that you've got mostly the little buds, or those little the couple of fluffy, the petals sometimes have those petals on the top, so that you've got the buds. And they're just used for so many things. Lavenders for potpourris and for for scented. There's just innumerable things, and they're great for in herbal teas. It's mixing and blending in a floral tea, and then that's an example of what I mentioned before in our herb blending triangle. It's an example of a supporting herb. So it's a gentle flavored herb, and it will supports the herbs in your for instance, in your relaxing tea. So I'll pop those in there, and we can experiment. You can experiment with those. Put the jar next to it to remind us what it is. And this is our, these are our, our nettles. Where should I put those nettles also? In a container. I'll put them in here. Yes, yeah, drying all those. So I invite you all to come up a little bit. Come up a little bit closer. Great. And you'll see on your, have you, look, let's bring your handouts with you, and you'll see on the back page, I've got some nice examples of herbal teas that we can blend and try for ourselves. So a series of tongs and things, spoon for some of the, spoon for some, for this one here, tongs. And there we go. Just help yourself to all those. And as you can see, I've got an example. I've got 5 different herbal tea blends. Yes, and so and here are the sachets. I've got them all sachets here, labelled, a little bit decorated, so you can just open those up. And open those up. It's got a clear window, and it's got a bit of a flat bottom that you can open up a little bit. And you can make enough for, one. You can use a couple, and one of these will make 1 or 2 teas.
Ellen, could you show us an example of how you personally get the 15%, and then the 70%?
Okay, yes, sure. So it's not scientific, and it's by weight. So I will do, for instance, I'm going to, and I've got some pens as well, so we can write our labels on them. Say an immunity tea. So I would do, so the nettles are here, so you can see that the nettles are here. So I'll just put a few of these leaves in, stuff those in. And so 70%, so it's a bit more than half, so just a bit like that, just stick a few of those in, because you're just going to make enough for one or two teas, and then like that. And then the calendula, so then you'll just put a few sprinkles of this, and it adds a nice color too, and that's the supporting blend. And then you can put those in there, and then like just put them in like that, the calendula. And then we've got rose petals for the accent, so that will provide a bit of a rose petal taste, a nice sweet taste. And just put a few in there like that, so roughly. And then you can close that, zip it up like that, and then use your next herbal tea drink. Yep. So I'll get I might have a couple of pens handy, and then although I probably do, yes, I've got a couple of pens handy. And then you can write on it either, or you can write on it before or after. That's your immunity tea. Immunity tea, and you can write on it nettles, calendula. And I suggest you have it as well as these have been, or like I said, they've all been freshly dried in the last week or so. And then your personally blended herbal teas. Yes, yeah. I think I've got more pen here. And some of those teas, the summer refreshing tea is nice as well, because you can have that ice. Some of these teas you can have cold as well. Just add ice cubes to it. And yeah, so if it might be easier to write on it when you're, here's another pen as well. And it's flat. Help yourself. There we go. Yes, no, they're for tea. They're an example. You don't have a handout, do you? Do you have a handout? No. Okay. Yeah. So they're an example of the accent tea for flavour, more for flavour. Yes, because like as I mentioned before, some of those teas, for instance, the nettle can be a little bit like grassy or a bit hay flavoured, or a grassy smelling and not so exciting. But if you touch a touch of lemon, it would go nicely. Like, for instance, lemon goes very well with the pineapple sage. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and have a smell of some of those of the herbs.
I've got horses, so I've always got.
Oh, you're always growing what? Nettles?
Oh, I've got horses. Always nettles near horse poo.
Yeah.
I seem to find one of them.
Oh.
She's a big girl too. So,
Oh yes, gosh.
she's got Frisian.
Oh.
Frisian and
Oh.
Clydesdale.
Oh yes. God, that's a big,
She's
big.
got dark nose, which is
Mm.
pink and white up the
Oh, lovely. That's your horse. Your horse you've got.
Yeah.
Oh, very
My
nice.
pet.
The chamomile is here. Yeah, yeah. There we go. Got a little spoon for that one. Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
It looks sort of shredded.
It's not shredded. No, they're whole flowers. See?
they're whole-
Yeah, they're
oh,
whole
so they
flowers.
are, but
Yeah, they're
that's-
flowers. They're flower buds. Yeah.
Right.
But sometimes the petals fall off. And these are like, smell it. So I'll give you some.
A
Smell
little
it.
bit, then I've got my hands full.
Okay, yeah.
Try some chamomile.
Yeah.
I've got this growing
There
in
we
my
go.
Gucci garden.
Yeah, help yourself. Yeah, yes. And that's an annual chamomile. So but if you're lucky, it'll self-seed every year.
These grow together. I've got chamomile with elephant garlic.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's good.
Mixtures, you know?
That's good.
Hoo-ha.
Yeah. Oh, that's you really contain a companion growing.
Be very, very slow.
Yeah. Yeah. Does everybody feel happy confident about their blending?
Well, how do you infuse? Do you have any?
Oh yes, that's right. So I've also added some notes here that you generally do it for 5 minutes. A good, so you can use boiling water. There are some herbs that they particularly say that you have to use water that's off the boil, but these ones it should be freshly boiled so that it really, freshly boiled, so really absorb all the compounds and the essential oils and the flavonoids, all those things, and then you let it sit for 5 minutes. Brew for 5 minutes, so it's a bit longer than regular tea. And another thing I might add is that these can be used in conjunction with green teas as well. You know, like if you want a green tea but you want to add a bit of flavour to it, so just like you would add a bit of lemon, a squeeze of lemon, you can also add herbal teas to it.
I've still got my mother's tea warmer. You know, the
Oh, yes.
old-fashioned Dutch tea warmer.
Yes.
30 watts. 60
Oh.
watt switch. 30 watt, 60
Electric
watt.
one. Ah.
Electric one. It's got a nichrome wire.
Nice.
I don't know why people don't make these.
Yeah.
It's
That'll be handy. Yes.
probably about 60 years old.
Yeah.
70.
And for people, and so for people who came in a bit later, there's generally no risks with herbal teas. Just everything in moderation. And if you've got any unusual like allergies, for instance, for the members of the daisy family, then you would be don't take too much chamomile because that's a member of the Asteraceae family, the daisy family, and but otherwise most things blend well together because you're just using a small amount. Yes, that's nettles. Yeah,
My base.
yeah.